Coreen stepped off the train, the scent of roasted sausages and the low hum of an accordion filling the air. Munich's cobblestone streets stretched out before her, bustling with life as Oktoberfest unfurled like a banner of celebration. The colorful tints, lively chatter, and the clink of steins filled her with excitement, but a strange sensation tugged at her. As if hidden beneath the jubilance, something ancient stirred. Days before, a mysterious letter had arrived at her home, sealed with wax. It spoke of a hidden legacy tied to her family, an artifact lost for centuries, last seen during a royal celebration in 1810, the first Oktoberfest. As she wandered through the throngs of festival-goers, a hand tapped her shoulder. It was Klaus, an old friend she hadn't seen in years. His smile was warm, but his eyes betrayed concern.
"You shouldn't have come,"
he said softly. Klaus slipped her a map and muttered something about an ancient stein, a relic tied to Bavarian royalty, hidden beneath the city.
"Follow the clues, but be careful. Others are looking for it, too."
Her first stop was a tavern older than the festival itself. Its wooden beams sagged with age, and the bartender, a wizened man with a long mustache, handed her a drink without a word. Etched into the glass was the crest from the letter. Behind the bar, Coreen found a trapdoor. Dust flew as she descended into a cellar lined with barrels. From the darkness, a voice whispered her name. In the cellar, she found an old leather-bound journal. Its pages were fragile, but the words spoke of a journey undertaken by a Bavarian prince who hid something precious beneath Munich streets. Back above ground, she followed the festival's lively music. A brass band played an old Bavarian folk song, and in its melody, she heard a pattern, coordinates. With Klaus by her side, Coreen found herself before a hidden tunnel entrance, covered in moss and graffiti. The coordinates had led them here, deep beneath the city, where the festival's roots ran into history itself. Deep in the tunnel, a large stone door blocked their path. It bore an inscription, "Only those who honor the past may proceed." As Coreen read aloud, the door groaned open. Inside the chamber, they found a series of riddles, each one tied to Bavarian history. One wrong answer, and the room would seal forever. As they worked through the riddles, Klaus revealed that his family, too, had ties to the artifact. Centuries ago, they had been the ones tasked with hiding the stein. But treachery from within had scattered the family, and the secret was lost. Just as they solved the final riddle, a shadow appeared at the doorway. A figure, cloaked in black, stepped forward, Klaus's estranged brother Hans. He had been following them all along. Hans lunged for the stein, but Coreen grabbed it first. With Klaus by her side, they ran through the tunnels, their footsteps echoing in the dark, Hans's threats trailing behind them. They emerged in a part of the city Coreen had never seen, an underground hall where Oktoberfest was still celebrated by those who clung to the old ways. Here, the traditions had never changed. Disguised in festival garb, Coreen and Klaus slipped past the revelers. The stein, glowing faintly in her hands, seemed to hum with energy. Hans caught up to them in a narrow alley.
"You don't know what you're holding,"
he shouted, lunging for the stein. Coreen dodged, but the stein flew from her hands, shattering on the cobblestone. Amid the shards of the stein, a piece of parchment appeared, an ancient map showing the location of a lost Bavarian treasure. Hans's eyes widened in greed, but before he could act, Klaus grabbed the map. The festival above ground was nearing its end, but beneath the city, a race for the treasure had begun. Coreen, Klaus, and Hans each set out, following different paths to the final location. Coreen's path led her to an ancient library hidden beneath Munich's town hall. Here, she found books written in Old German, detailing the true history of the Stein and its connection to the royal family. Just as Hans was about to catch her, a figure emerged from the shadows, an old woman who had been watching them all along. She offered Coreen a cryptic warning and a key.
"Not all is as it seems,"
she whispered. The key led her to a hidden chamber beneath the festival grounds. Carved into the stone were the stories of Bavaria's ancient kings, and at the center of the room, an unbroken Stein sat, gleaming. The Stein was not just a relic, it was a key itself, meant to unlock something far greater, a vault containing treasures and knowledge lost to time. As Coreen reached for the Stein, Klaus appeared, his face torn with indecision. Hans was not far behind. They all had the chance to claim the treasure. But at what cost? Hans lunged for the Stein, but Klaus stopped him. In the ensuing struggle, the truth came out. Hans had been the one to betray their family, seeking the Stein's power for himself. As the brothers fought, Coreen made her choice. She placed the Stein on its pedestal, and the room trembled. Slowly, a hidden vault opened, revealing treasures beyond imagination, and a final revelation about the true history of Oktoberfest. Klaus, now understanding the weight of his family's legacy, helped Coreen lock the vault once more. The treasure would remain hidden, but the knowledge it held was theirs to protect. As they emerged from the tunnels, the festival above was still in full swing. The air was filled with music, laughter, and the clinking of steins, oblivious to the adventure that had just unfolded beneath their feet. With the weight of history on her shoulders, Coreen looked out over the festival. She knew her journey was just beginning, and that the echoes of Bavaria's past would guide her next steps. As Coreen stood amidst the festival's joyous crowd, the Stein's ancient secrets still echoed in her mind. The weight of history felt lighter now, though something lingered, an itch that told her this was not the end, but the beginning of a greater journey. Before she could lose herself in celebration, a man in a dark coat approached her from the edge of the crowd.
"You've opened something that shouldn't have been touched,"
he murmured.
"It's not over yet."
The stranger's eyes gleamed with knowledge.
"There are those who will stop at nothing to claim what you've uncovered. The vault's true guardian is still out there, waiting."
His words chilled her, but Coreen's resolve only strengthened. The man handed her a small, engraved token, an emblem she had seen before in the diary she found.
"This will lead you to the next part of the story, if you're brave enough to follow it."
Coreen clenched the token tightly and watched as the man disappeared into the crowd. That night, with Klaus by her side, Coreen ventured once more beneath Munich into the forgotten tunnels. The map from the shattered Stein now revealed new symbols, leading them deeper into the earth. At the end of the path, they came upon an underground chapel, forgotten by time. In the center, a crumbling altar held a single candle that flickered despite the absence of wind. Above it, a fresco of an old king holding the Stein, his eyes hollow and sorrowful. On the walls of the chapel were ancient texts describing a prophecy. The one who reclaims the Stein would awaken not only Bavaria's past, but a force that had been locked away for centuries. Coreen felt a cold shiver run down her spine. From the shadows, Hans appeared once more, his face twisted in determination. He had followed them, still hungry for the Stein's power.
You don't understand what you're dealing with.
He hissed.
The Stein is more than a relic. It's a key to something far darker.
Before they could react, Klaus stepped between them.
We'll have to work together,
he said reluctantly. Hans's knowledge of the prophecy ran deep, and though neither Coreen nor Klaus trusted him, they knew they couldn't continue without his help. Hans led them to a hidden alcove behind the chapel's altar. There, carved into the stone, was the final clue, a map of Bavaria, with 3 points marked across the land. Together, these locations would reveal the true source of the Stein's power. The trio set out from Munich, their journey taking them through Bavaria's rolling hills, past ancient castles and dense forests, each location more secretive than the last. With every step, the sense of danger grew. Their path led them to a mountaintop fortress, its stone walls disappearing into the mist. It was said that the kings of old had hidden their greatest treasures here. But as they ascended, strange figures watched from the shadows, other seekers drawn by the Stein's power. At the heart of the castle, they found a vault sealed by a mechanism only the Stein could unlock. But as Coreen placed the token into the lock, a figure materialized, the Guardian, an ancient knight who had sworn to protect the vault with his life. The knight demanded a test, a trial of knowledge about Bavaria's history, the legacy of its kings, and the true purpose of the Stein. Only by passing this trial could they access the vault. Failure meant being sealed within the castle forever. Coreen, Klaus, and Hans combined their knowledge, piecing together the forgotten stories of Bavaria's royal bloodline. They recounted the tale of a prince who had once been cursed for his greed, his soul bound to the Stein itself. As they spoke the final words, the knight stepped aside, his armor creaking as he knelt. The vault doors slowly opened, revealing treasures that shimmered with an otherworldly light. Among them was a crown, and beside it the original Stein, intact, untouched by time. The Stein's power, it turned out, was not in the treasure it unlocked, but in the knowledge it held. It was a vessel for the wisdom of Bavaria's kings, a tool meant to unite, not divide. But it also carried a warning. Misuse of its power could awaken forces that had been locked away since the ancient kings ruled. Hans, blinded by greed, reached for the Stein, but Coreen blocked his path.
"This isn't for you,"
she said firmly. Hans, enraged, drew a dagger, but Klaus intervened. In the struggle, the Stein fell, glowing with intense light, and a shockwave of energy. As the light faded, Hans lay unconscious, and the Stein had once again been sealed in the vault. Coreen and Klaus, now bound by a shared legacy, left the castle behind. They knew their journey was far from over. The Stein's true purpose had only begun to reveal itself. As they descended from the mountain, the sun rose over Bavaria, casting golden light over the land. The festival of Oktoberfest would continue, but now, Coreen carried with her the weight of a forgotten history and the promise of an even greater adventure.